Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We turn now to a little poem, The Commonplace, poem 24 of 31 of Goodbye My Fancy. And it is, of course, a very legitimate question. Is Whitman an elitist? Is he somehow think of himself as measureless? Or is he rather just of the common individual? You'll remember that he said in As I Walk These Broad Majestic Days that he's interested in the divine average. And if you're ready to say, well, Whitman's just full of contradictions, we'll go back to Song of Myself 51, where he asks, do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes. I think that's at the heart of this little poem, a little amazing little poem. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net down that left-hand side, Talks with Walt, our playlist, and that you are a part of as well the introductory set of comments to Goodbye My Fancy. Norton's will tell us that this poem was first published in Munson's magazine of March of 1891. Now, the commonplace as a word is only used one other time in Leaves of Grass, and interestingly, it's in the preface of the second annex, as we've already given a lecture on it, and he says, right after he says something kind of almost derisive about the commonplace, he says, perhaps I am too democratic. That is to say, Whitman is at times wanting to paint himself as an elitist, and then at other times as this amazing democrat of the common people. The commonplace I sing, by the way, I sing has been used 48 times in Leaves of Grass, I sing or I singing, and so almost 50 times he'll play this game of I sing. How cheap is health? Now that's fascinating. If by cheap he means kind of like useless, how cheap is health? How cheap nobility? Ah, there it is, okay? And you can go back, A Song of the Open Road is channeled in many ways in this poem, and his comments about that nobility and those people who think that they're better. It's not clear the next lines. Abstinence, only time used in all Leaves of Grass. Abstinence, no falsehood, no gluttony, lust. It's not clear if he's saying those are cheap or if those are what he's advocating. Again, I contain multitudes, right? The open air I sing, and this takes us again back to Song of the Open Road. Freedom, toleration. The only other use of toleration is in his little poem, Washington's Monument, February 1885. You'll remember it there. And then in parenthetics, take here the mainest lesson. Can I point out that for now 3 poems in a row the word lesson has been used. He used it in Persian lesson, and then he used it in his poem A Voice from Death, talking about the tragedy of those dying in the breaking of the dam. Notice here he says the lesson, here the mainest lesson. If you want to know everything, less from books, less from the schools. Go back to Song of the Open Road 15. Again, I think there's a lot of Song of the Open Road happening here. The common day and night. The common earth and waters. It always is about those two, earth and waters. And then he turns personal. From the philosophic statement, he goes directly to the reader. Your farm, your work, trade, occupation, notice the 3. The democratic wisdom underneath, like solid ground for all. And again, like solid ground for all makes us smile because of course, Leaves of Grass is the title of this collection of poems. So what exactly is it that he is arguing here? Well, I think he's arguing that what makes America truly great is common sense, the divine average, as he will have called it in another poem. At 2b, I love that the very word commonplace is only used one other time, and it's in his preface to Annex number 2. At 3a, there's a lot of different places. I mean, obviously he's channeling to some degree the romanticized view that Jefferson had of the idealized American farmer, all of us living on farms and working the land. But here I want to reference as well Franklin's autobiography of 1791. I think it's significant that we're talking about roughly 100 years prior from the deathbed edition. Franklin would have made the same argument. We've given full lectures on this at learnstrong.net, the autobiography, where taking care of your own business, trying not to think too much of yourself, trying not to be an elitist is probably a good idea. And I think Whitman is certainly channeling it there in this set of lines. Finally, at 3b, do you agree? Do you think that this is what makes America such a remarkable, historically remarkable culture, is that we celebrate the average. Somebody who grows up homeschooled and has no shoes until a certain age becomes the 16th president in Abraham Lincoln. Certainly that would have been in Whitman's mind. Or is it rather that we talk about this, but we actually don't really believe this? We are still a country that celebrates far more the intelligentsia and the elite. Well, I'll leave it to you to figure it out. Thank you.